Lawrence Shatkin. The purpose of this video is to make you consider going into a non-traditional occupation. What do I mean by non-traditional? I mean an occupation where the workforce is at least 85% either male or female. One of the reasons that these traditions have arisen about the occupations that are appropriate for men and women is because of certain stereotypes about men and women in a larger sense. One is that women are physically weak and emotionally don't have much control over their feelings. On the other hand, there's a positive stereotype about women that they are empathetic, they understand the feelings of other people, and they're good at communicating. Unfortunately, however, these stereotypes add up to the notion that women are best suited for keeping a home. The stereotypes for men are also mixed. One is the idea that men have very good physical strength and have very good emotional strength and control over their emotions. Another notion is that men can be very competitive. Now, there's a negative stereotype that men aren't very good at communication and that they don't have the empathy that women have. All these stereotypes add up to the notion that men are best suited for leadership or conversely for doing physical labor. Now, here are some stereotypes about women's work. First, there's a notion that women don't have the physical strength for doing certain kinds of jobs. Of course, it's true that the male body is better at building muscle, but that's not necessarily true for all women. Certainly, there are some women who are extremely fit. You also have to consider that strength itself is losing its importance at work. We have more and more machines to do the physical work that's necessary on the job. In a knowledge economy, it simply is not as important as it used to be. Also, some work tasks can be altered or organized in a different way so that they better suit female strength. For example, lifting can be done more from the waist and hips rather than from the upper body strength. Sometimes women are kept out of a career because they're told that it demands such commitment that having a family will not fit into that career. Of course, not all women want to start a family, and in families, mothers don't always carry all the responsibilities for child rearing. Some jobs that traditionally have demanded a lot of commitment have certain specializations and niches available that don't demand so much long hours. For example, in some professional careers, such as veterinarians and physicians, it used to be common for the practitioner to own the practice and run it as a solo practice and have long hours and a great deal of commitment to keeping that practice running. Now it's much more common for these practices to be group practices or even owned by a corporation, and the professionals to be hired as salaried workers, and that requires much less commitment and shorter hours. In some companies, when women are considered for advancement, homemaking duties are considered managerial experience, and this is recognized. Remember what I said earlier about the stereotype that women don't have emotional strength. This leads to the stereotype that women can't be leaders because they can't make the tough decisions that leaders have to make. I have some photos here of women who have been in important leadership positions. They can handle the stress and the decision-making that these positions require, and it's because women don't all have the same personality type. There's a stereotype that holds women back that says that the man is the main breadwinner of a family, and therefore giving a woman this position would take away a job from a man who needs to support his family. But of course, not every family has two parents, and even in families with two earners, the woman's earnings may be an essential part of the budget. There's a stereotype that women aren't good at math. However, this again is a stereotype, and it's not true for all women, and there are a number of women who have succeeded in math and science careers, and the photos here are just a few of those. Now let's turn to the stereotypes about men's work. Men have the stereotype that they're not empathetic, they're not caring, they're not sensitive, and so there's certain jobs that require caring and empathy, and therefore men are unsuited for these. Again, it's the assumption that everyone of the same sex has the same personality type, and this is not true of all men. We have men who really do show their emotions and feel for other people. Men sometimes face discrimination in some very intimate jobs, such as massage therapists. Another stereotype about the sexes is that women are better communicators than men. Again, the assumption here is that men have the same personality type, and obviously if you turn on your television, you can see many men who are really good communicators. One prominent stereotype about men is that they're very competitive and that they're so ego-driven that they can't cooperate or collaborate in the workplace. And cooperation and collaboration are more important than ever in today's workforce. Again, there's the assumption that all men have just one personality type. Certainly in sports, everyone knows that teamwork is very important and that someone who's a showboat is not respected. So you can see that many men can collaborate and cooperate on the job. The stereotype that men are the primary breadwinner can create a problem because if the career doesn't pay much, the employer may expect that men won't stay around very long. But of course, men aren't the only breadwinner in every family, and for some men, the non-monetary rewards of work are very important and they're willing to overlook low pay. So why would it be a good move for a female to defy the stereotypes and take a non-traditional job? One reason is that you may earn more. And it's true that many of the occupations that are traditionally dominated by men pay better than the occupations that are traditionally dominated by women. In addition to this difference in pay, you may gain higher status by being in a job that traditionally has been associated with men. By defying some of the stereotypes and traditions, you also will be recognized as a pioneer and may get some satisfaction from that. Breaking through the glass ceiling may also open up opportunities to you that other females have not sought in the past, and you may gain the satisfaction of overcoming the challenge of past stereotypes. You may also gain certain special satisfactions from doing this kind of work. For example, you may be someone who has a great deal of interest in working with mechanical things or working with math and science. Now, there are certain drawbacks to trying to defy the traditions. There's still a lot of discrimination against women who move into non-traditional careers. There may be sexual harassment on the job, and you may have to deal with that. Of course, it's illegal, but that doesn't mean it's easy to overcome. There may be some loneliness on the job. Maybe you find little you can talk about, little you have in common with the people who work with you. Stereotyping may also go on. People may assume certain things about you because of the fact that you work in a non-traditional job, that you're non-traditional in other ways. Some of the male-dominated jobs have really unpleasant work conditions. They may be dirty, noisy, even dangerous. Another thing to consider is that many of the jobs that traditionally have employed men are not growing as fast as the jobs that traditionally employ women. So you may be limiting your job prospects a little by going into a traditionally male career. Now let's look at the advantages to men of defying the stereotypes and looking for jobs that traditionally have been associated with women. In the service economy that we now have, there is now a lot of opportunity in jobs that traditionally have been associated with women. Jobs in personal care, jobs in healthcare, jobs in retail. This graph shows the difference in employment in two career fields, one of which is associated more with men, that's the blue one that's going down, and one that's more associated with women, the red one, which is going up. And this is an indication of the direction our economy has been going in. Rightly or wrongly, the stereotype that men are better suited for leadership may result in faster advancement in an occupation that is dominated by women. You could gain some satisfaction by being a pioneer in your field. You also will gain the satisfaction of overcoming some of the challenges that men face by trying to fit into a career where traditionally they've been few in number. There are other satisfactions that you may gain if you care a great deal about helping other people, for example. Many careers that offer this satisfaction are dominated by women. There are drawbacks to defying traditions. People may assume that because you're defying one kind of tradition, that you may be defying other kinds of traditions, that there's something less masculine about what you're doing. Careers that traditionally have been dominated by women tend to pay lower than careers that traditionally have been dominated by men, and that's a fact of economics that may make these careers less attractive to you. You may face discrimination. People may not want to work with men in a role traditionally associated with women. Sexual harassment isn't just something that happens to women on the job. It can also happen to men on the job, particularly when they're few in number. You may experience loneliness in that your female coworkers talk about things that are of little interest to you and you have little in common with them. There are unpleasant work conditions in many of the jobs traditionally associated with women. Think of all the cleanup work that nurses' aides have to do. Okay, let's say you're open to the idea of a non-traditional job. What traits are useful for you to have if you're going to make that move? It helps to have a thick skin, to be able to shrug off things that other people say about you or think about you. It also helps to be comfortable with the opposite sex, and the idea being that you don't hold them in awe or idealize them, but treat them as human beings on a fairly equal level. Maybe you're a woman who grew up with a lot of brothers, or a man who grew up with a lot of sisters, and you have a more realistic outlook on the opposite sex than people who have been more isolated from them. It also helps to have gender atypical values. And what I'm thinking about, for example, is men who care a great deal about helping other people, or women who are very competitive and want to get ahead a great deal. You may have gender atypical interests. I'm thinking, for example, of women who are very interested in science and math, or in mechanical objects, or men who are very interested in the arts or in fashion. Notice that these traits are not really required, but they certainly are helpful if you want to make a move into a non-traditional job. This table shows some of the outstanding non-traditional jobs for women, and to create this table, I looked at the occupations that have the best combination of earnings, growth, and job openings. The earnings are May 2011 estimates, the job growth is what is projected for 2010 to 2020, and the job openings are the average annual openings projected for that same time period. And what I did was to look at jobs that have the best combination of those three criteria. Here are the non-traditional jobs for men that also have the best combination of these three criteria. One more satisfaction you may get by pursuing a non-traditional career is that you're helping your country. America is expecting to have a shortage of scientists and of healthcare workers, and so we need women to move into scientific careers and men to work in the field of healthcare. Another reason it's useful to have non-traditional workers is to bring diverse insights into the workplace. There's a phenomenon that's called groupthink, where everybody on the job has the same attitude and thinks the same way, and it results in a certain stagnation, a lack of new ideas. Bringing in non-traditional workers can bring in non-traditional ideas, and that can result in progress. One more reason America needs more non-traditional workers is to fulfill the promise that we have in our country of egalitarianism, that people shouldn't be restricted by stereotypes, that people should be allowed to fulfill their ambitions to the extent of their potential. Here's some ways you can get in touch with me. I have a Twitter feed, I have a web page, I have a Facebook presence, I also have a blog. You can learn how to access all of these by going to shatkin.com. Thanks for listening to this presentation.